Hello everybody, welcome back to Tips and Tricks Tuesdays with me, Valentina V. There was a kerfuffle, as one would say, with the live stream, but I'm back, so hopefully you are back as well. Just gonna make sure that everything is working here on the iPad. Yeah, looks like everything's working, so yes, Nicholas asks, y'all restarting the stream? We're, the good thing is that we have now split the stream into two sections, right? There's the interview with Kevin, and then there's my tutorial. So welcome to my tutorial. If you would like to get all of the notes for this, you can go to adobe.ly/tipstuesday, and there you will find something that looks like this. It says Create Magic in After Effects, and all of the things that I will be covering today are in there, so you can learn about how to do all of this magic goodness. And if you like that, then we'll also do even more After Effects, maybe at a later date, if you are into After Effects and if you are liking After Effects. Until then, let's hop in and take a look at my screen here. There I am. Okay, so we are inside of After Effects, and basically I only have one video clip that I'm working off of, which is this one, and I'll open it up. If I double click on it, it opens up in footage here, so I'll be able to show you what it is. So essentially what I did was I pushed this little pumpkin, which is resting on sort of a its own little surface. I pushed it into the shot, or I pulled it into the shot, I would say, from this direction. So I pulled it into the shot, then with my hand, then I climbed over there and I pushed a button to turn the light on inside the pumpkin. Then I came up, picked up the pumpkin, walked to the back of the room, then pretended like I was pulling the pumpkin in at the same time, and then I jumped inside the pumpkin. So basically, it should be a perfect loop of me pulling in a giant pumpkin using forced perspective and then jumping into it. So the way it looks is like this. Maybe I can, let's see if I can mute it. One sec. Because the actual audio is useless. So yeah, hopefully now you can't hear it. So here I am pulling the pumpkin. Actually, I think I did this a couple times. I think this was not the full take. Here we go. Just letting you know, this is really silly. And I'm also going to play it back at a lower resolution. I'm going to skip some frames so you can see it faster. So I'm going to do resolution, let's do a third. So the pumpkin comes on. And then I turn the light on there. And then I come in, I grab the pumpkin. And then I stand up. I throw the pumpkin away. And then I pull a chair, and this is going to be where the pumpkin is, right? I climb onto the chair. So technically I'm climbing onto the pumpkin. I drop inside of it. And then at the same time that I turn the light on inside the pumpkin, I turn that light on. And then as I'm picking the pumpkin up, I'm actually picking the pumpkin and myself up, if that makes sense. So let me show you the way that it should look when it's done. I was able to render just a couple frames prior to this, but it should look kind of like that. So you can see I'm picking up the pumpkin and I am inside of the pumpkin itself. So if I take off the foreground, you can see that I am masked and I'm sitting inside the pumpkin. And when I dropped in, it looks like this. I think I have the main section already rendered, so I can show you that. So here I am, I drop into it. Now I'm inside of it. I turn the light on, Well, actually, I'm inside of it, but it's not showing you because my resolution isn't full. So if I turn my resolution to full, you'll be able to actually see me inside of it. There it is. And then I come up and I pick it up. I grab it. And then I carry it off, if that makes any sense. Looks like we are good on Facebook Live. Let me know if you have any questions on Facebook Live. So basically, that's the name of the game, is how do I make it a magic trick like this where I'm picking myself up and it's all from the same kind of clip. So if we expand this, this is kind of, you know, the nuts and bolts of it, and this is what I have to do. So at the beginning, I kind of split this up into 4 sections that overlap each other. So we have this section, which is the very beginning of it. So it's me walking up this beginning section, which is the beginning. I have this middle section, which is me actually pulling the pumpkin in. Then I have the jump, which I split up into, and then this section is where the new character comes in and picks the pumpkin up. And hopefully when it's all together, it should look like a full magic trick. It looks like my camera's saying it's overheating, which is weird because I'm not even using it very much. So if my camera drops out, no worries. This is my first time using that camera, but I'll just... How do you do this? Well, first of all, before we do anything, let's take a look at the file itself. So what I'll do is I'll go over to the clip itself and I'll just take it and drag it into new composition. So the clip is the only thing in the composition, and by default it just has the name of whatever the clip is. So here it says, you know, I always like to name my clips in this kind of way, so it's the date, and then it's my name, and then it is what the clip is, right? So we can always rename it later inside the program, but this is what the clip is. It is me, you know, climbing in and all of that. So at the end here, once I kind of had an idea that like this is a good take, this is something that I'm going to use, I immediately in the same clip recorded a clean frame. Just like if you were around for part 1 of this tutorial, Kevin was saying that you have to have a clean frame. That's what I did. So I'm going to go to the part of this tutorial where I take out the chair and I take out the light right there. So this is actually just the back side of the clip. So I'll show you. It's actually this half of the clip. That is my clean frame. So I'm just going to press Shift Command D to split that layer into pieces so that I can get a really nice section of it that is my clean plate. And right here I come back and I redo stuff, and I don't need that. So this section right here, that is my clean plate. So I'm going to name that layer clean plate. Over here, rename. So I right click, I rename, and I say clean plate. And I like making it green, so I'll make it green. Over here in the label options, I will make it green, and I will put that on the very bottom. Okay, so whatever I place over it is always going to, I'm always going to have that clean plate. And now because I only designated this section, because only that section is a clean plate, I'll just move it over, scooch it over to the beginning. That way I can always use it and it'll always be here for me as the clean plate. Next, I need to find a section of this to start with. So remember, I kind of start it where I'm running up to the background. So we'll call this the second character. The first character is the person that's running up to the background. So it's after I've discarded the pumpkin already, right there. As soon as the little pumpkin is gone, there we go. So that's where I'm going to, let's go a little bit forward, maybe let's say there. So I'm going to, again, split this into 2. So I'm going to go Shift Command D. So now I have this section, and this section is going to actually go at the very beginning. So I'm going to move it to the very beginning. And I'm going to just take it down underneath. Let me label that with lavender, and I'll rename it so that you know what is going on. And I will call this the dragging chair. That's what I'll call this, dragging chair. So that is the very beginning section of it. Now, if we just look at the clean plate and the dragging chair, so I'm going to disable the top one by pressing on the visibility eye. If we just look at these two, the one thing that is annoying in here is that there is this C-stand arm in the way. Do you see that? This C-stand arm? Now, when I was recording it, I made sure to duck under it so that I can always get rid of this C-stand arm and the C-stand leg here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that clean plate that I was using. I'm going to duplicate the clean plate. So I'm going to say Command C, Command V, duplicate on the stand leg. So I'll go down layer selected with my clean plate arm mask layer selected. I'll go ahead and I'll draw a mask just for this arm. So there it is. If I change the opacity of that layer back to 100%, I'll be able to see that that arm is masked out, right? Obviously there's some stuff going down there, but I'm probably going to cut this video off here anyway, so it's not going to be super noticeable or visible. Now I can make the borders of this mask a little bit more fuzzy so that you see it a little bit better, or you don't see it at all, by going over here under the masks control, and here's mask feather. So the thing is, if I feather it too much, we'll start actually seeing that stand. So if I feather it way too much, you'll start seeing the stand again. So I have to feather it just enough that it is seamless, but we don't see the stand anymore. Oh. So now it just looks like, there we go. Okay, so now that we have that, one thing that I'm noticing is that the clean plate itself must have shifted, because if you look at the edges of this mirror here, I use my H tool, my hand tool, to walk around. You can see that it doesn't exactly line up. There's some sort of offset happening here. So in order to get rid of that offset, I will just shift my clean plate layer over a little bit, and that way I'll get rid of the offset. So let me move both my clean plate arm mask layer and my clean plate layer. I'll select them both at the same time by pressing Command, and I will shift them until they line up with that mirror, like that. And if I wanted to double check it, I can just toggle on and off my dragging chair layer. I can just toggle this layer, dragging chair. I can toggle it on and off using the, see how it's pretty dramatic at this point? So let's see here. I can also click T to pull up the opacity control and then just start shifting. Let me look at the position controls on both. I select both of them and I'll just start shifting it using the position controls. It's pretty close. It still needs to be to the right a little bit more. There we go. That's pretty close there. Cool. And the arm I can shift over slightly. There we go. Okay, so now that the illusion has happened and I no longer see the arm, this is what it looks like. Let me change the resolution to like a third so that you can see it. This is 4K footage, so it's a little bit harder to work with, but I'll go to the point in this video that I am pulling the chair, that I start pulling the chair, right? Kind of like right there. So at this point in time is where I start pulling the chair, and at this point in time is where that pumpkin should come in. So I'll set myself a marker. You can go here over to markers and you can grab that marker and set it right there. So that is where my pumpkin should be coming in. So I'll go back to my original footage layer, which I've just hidden, but it's up here the whole time. And I'll find the place in it where I have started pulling the pumpkin. So there, kind of starting kind of there, right? So I'll trim it and I'll move it over to the position 1 over here, right there, and then I'll extend it. So 2 things. The first thing, I have to mask the pumpkin itself. I have to get rid of my hand, and I'll be able to get rid of that by masking the pumpkin. And then the actual floor, aka the whatever the pumpkin was resting on, it actually changes between this pumpkin footage and the rest of the footage. It looks slightly different. So I have to use the floor that's the pumpkin floor. So I'll go to, there we go. So I'll stay fairly close and I'll draw this nice mask. Now, as soon as I get to the bottom here, it doesn't really matter because that'll be a different mask. So I can just cut straight across. And I will adjust some more. And there we go. So now that we have this mask, we can see nothing behind it. And it is transparent. It's a little bit sharp, so if I click out of it, you can see that the edges here are very, very, very sharp. So what I'm going to need to do is feather those edges. That's right. So I'll go into the mask controls here at the bottom, and not only am I going to feather the edges, so maybe like 10 pixel feather, but I will also change the expansion and I will contract the mask a little bit. Because when you feather it, it actually adds a little bit more pixels outwardly. Whoop. It adds a little bit more pixels outwardly, right? So I have to contract the mask in order to counteract for my feathered pixels. So here's an extreme example. So if I feather it like that by 131 pixels, you can see that this entire area is now showing through. So I would have to contract the mask a lot. But since I'm feathering it by only like 15 pixels, I'll only need to contract the mask a little bit just to stay within those safe bounds that I've created for myself. So now that I've created this mask, I can create a second mask, which is just for, and then I'll just do a simple, just a simple mask just for the bottom, the floor, right? There we go. And that way we can see the bottom of the pumpkin, and I can give this a little bit of a feather, but I will not be moving the mask here, mask 2. I will, oh, my camera overheated, so it'll be back when it decides that it wants to play with me again. But we have this mask here, and it is the second mask. It is that floor mask. And what we are going to do is not touch it. We are only going to be keyframing the mask for the pumpkin. So we select mask 1. That's the mask for this pumpkin. It has a kind of this green outline, if you can see it. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. And I'm going to click the stopwatch over here for mask path, and that will introduce a keyframe onto our mask over here. A keyframe. So now, hi everybody, welcome back to the stream. I am restarting it. This is part 3 now. Today's just not my day. Nothing wants to work, and that is a-okay. So for those people coming back from the previous stream, I will get, it looks like I might be back on the screen. Hey, I was able to jump back. That is amazing. I'm back on the live stream. So let's just make sure that everything is back on the Facebook live stream as well. And then we'll get, you let me know. Okay, we're back. We're back on both streams. We're living. Are we though? Yes. Okay. All right, we are back. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Okay, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'm just going to round this out. We were here in After Effects when we last left off. We had done one keyframe on this pumpkin, and we had made a floor mask as well on that same layer. Now the floor mask is not going to move, the pumpkin mask is going to move. So we can just move our playhead back, and then using the V key, we're going to double click on the pumpkin mask, and then that selects a bounding box around the whole mask. So now we can move the whole mask as a whole, and holding down shift, I can move it exactly along the x-axis, and I press enter. Then we can go and clean up our vertex points here. Now there is a way to move masks automatically using Mocha in After Effects. I felt that maybe Mocha was a little bit more of an advanced tutorial for this time around, but if you want to learn Mocha, definitely let me know, and perhaps I can make it in a future tutorial. So I'll go ahead and I'll just adjust all of these masks. You get it, right? And you can adjust in between. It'll sort of, it'll fill in between, but you can be a little bit more accurate with it as well. Like that. So when you are done with your masks, it'll look like this. And actually, let me add the floor mask to this one as well, because I had not added it prior. Ooh. Masks. Add. There we go. So this is what that mask looks like now that we actually only need it. Oh, did I not? Pumpkin not masked. Stuck on something, I think it was here. All right, let's just go back to this. It's fine. I don't know why I can't see other things, but yeah. So now that we have these masks done, let's actually go to the very last frame of it where it lands and make sure that that mask is accurate. Yeah, so that mask is accurate. Let's just pretend that all of the masks are done. And we're going to go to the masks, and they were on none before, right? So you can see the hand and you can see everything in the background. So we'll change those masks from none to add. So now we have the clean masks, and it looks like I was actually me in the background, little me, like I was pulling the pumpkin in. Oh, it's so loud. Sorry. I pull the pumpkin in. It's still really loud. No, why is it? There we go. So I pull it in, then I climb on top of it. Thanks, Music in My Veins, who said, hello, Valentina, keep up what you're doing. Thank you. It's not always easy to live stream. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, but we do our best. So then I climb up on top of it. And here's the important thing is, right? Remember, the light inside the pumpkin turns on at a certain point, right? And I want to match up the time that the light in the pumpkin turns on with when I turned on the light when I was, when I dropped down and I was inside the pumpkin. So we'll see where it is right now and whether it's a match. And if it isn't a match, then we can fit it to make it better. So I tried to match it up as much as I could, but we'll see. So you can kind of tell if I hide this pumpkin layer, you can see me below. and you can see where I turn the light on just there. So this is where the light is turned on. I'll place another marker here just so I know that that is exactly the frame on which the light is turned on. So now I will enable that pumpkin layer again, and we'll see where in the pumpkin, at what point the light turns on in the pumpkin. And it's actually a little bit afterwards in the pumpkin, right? So I'm going to take this part of the pumpkin layer right where the light turns on, and I'm going to duplicate, and then I'm going to shorten the previous layer, and I'm going to put the pumpkin layer there. So I'm going to rename this pumpkin light on, and I'm going to rename the previous one pumpkin light off. So what we've essentially done is we've cut a few frames out of the pumpkin layer just to line up the light switch on the back with the pumpkin light on the front. And then the pumpkin light on will make it orange, so you can see it a little bit better. So now how do I make it look like I am inside the pumpkin? Because right now I am not inside the pumpkin, clearly. Well, a couple of different things. First of all, I have to cut myself out, and second of all, I have to cut the eyes of the pumpkin out. So the eyes of the pumpkin, cutting that out is pretty simple. So what I'll do is I will duplicate this one more time, so Command Copy, Command V, and then the second version of the pumpkin lit, that is going to be my foreground. So I'm going to rename it Pumpkin Light Foreground. And then this, I'll just select the eyes as masks, and I will mask them out. So I will do a subtraction mask instead of an addition mask. So I'll do the same thing where I will draw a mask right where the bright layers are. Right now it's not going to do anything because as I'm drawing masks, by default those masks are set to add. So I'm just going to draw the mask, and like, it's a very rudimentary mask, so don't mind me. Ooh. And don't mind the truck outside. Close up that mask. What is happening? Oh, I see what happened. It started a brand new mask. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to finish the mouth mask here, and then the eye mask here. There we go. And then I'm going to set those masks. So if I click M, that opens up the mask controls. And those last three masks, mask 1, masks 3, 4, and 5, I'm going to set to subtract. So that will create cutouts. Now, obviously you can't see what they are. However, if I press the solo button right here, where it just solos this one layer, you'll be able to see that the eyes are now see-through. So I can turn on the transparency, and you can see that now the eyes are see-through. So all I have to do is place that layer of me hiding inside in the middle, in between these two mask layers, which is exactly what I'll do. So this layer here that's called dragging chair, I'm going to duplicate it, or I'm going to split duplicate by clicking Shift Command D at that point. Then I'm going to take this second half of it, and I'm going to move it in between the layers of the two pumpkin lights. So there we go. It's in between. It's sandwiched in between there. And then let me unsolo that. So now you can see me underneath here, but the problem is that my background is my background. It's not the background that was there before. So what I'll do is let me solo this layer. I have to cut myself out. Now I can cut myself out in a mask like this. Let me just do a very rudimentary mask. This is very poor because that's not what I'm actually going to be doing. But I can cut myself out in a mask like this so that when I turn everything back on, you can see A, B, C, right? You can see A, which is the background of the pumpkin. B, you can see me inside. And C, you can see the foreground of the pumpkin. But you know, unlike the mask of the pumpkin, which is easy enough to move because the pumpkin is the same shape. Ooh. The pumpkin is the same shape the whole time, right? So I just have to create one basic shape and then move it over a little bit a few times. with the organic person, aka me, in there, it's a little bit harder. So instead of masking, I'm going to use RotoBrush. So I'll go over here to masks, I'll press M, I'll delete the mask, and I'm going to use RotoBrush instead. So what I'll do is I'll go over here to RotoBrush and select that. And then I'll go to, right now it's in composition mode, so you can't see it, but if I double click on it, now I'm in the layer itself, and now I can use RotoBrush. So you can see RotoBrush is this green icon with the plus on it, and I can make it bigger or smaller by holding down I believe it's the command button, and then dragging up and down to make it bigger or smaller. So I'm going to make it pretty big, and then I'm just going to select the areas that I think it should select, and it's going to do that. See how it's pretty accurate with its selection. So let me make make it a little bit smaller, select the arm, yep, select the legs here, good, and then it has selected this little piece of a chair, and I don't want that, so I'm going to hold down the Alt button. Actually, let me make it smaller first. I'm going to hold down the Alt button to make a negative selection, and I'm going to say don't select the chair, but I want you to select this as well. So there we go. That is what the RotoBrush has selected. And now we can do this thing called propagating the RotoBrush, which means it will automatically go forward. And as it goes forward, we can always adjust it as it goes forward. So we're almost done, by the way, even with the stream interruptions that were happening and all of the technical difficulties. Streaming is not easy, especially live on in two destinations, but we're making it happen. I think my computer froze. Let me go back to me. Hi. And try to figure out why this is frozen. Okay. We back. There we go. Okay. So here we are in RotoBrush, and what we'll do is we'll propagate it by just pressing our space bar. So we will propagate it. Oh. One sec. Okay. Basically, let's go to over here, where I have already started propagating it so you can see it a little bit better. Sometimes okay, are we back? Are we unfrozen? I think my After Effects just decided that it's done with me. It's not gonna play nice with me anymore, so I have to restart it, which is fine. One cool thing that you can do in After Effects in any Adobe program is you can set it to autosave at a certain interval, and you do that in your preferences. So something that I've done with my preferences is I've set it to autosave every 8 minutes. So if I lose any work, I've only lost 8 minutes of work. Just when you are doing the autosave preferences, make sure that you also increase the number of versions that you could have, because if you're auto-saving every 8 minutes, you're probably going to have a lot of versions. So the way that you do that is over here in Edit, Preferences, Autosave. So yeah, right here I said save every 8 minutes, maximum project versions 100. So just in case, you don't want to lose any work, you got to autosave it. So let's go to where it's been propagated so you can see it. Let me punch into that. Okay. And you can see the different is it okay? into RotoBrush again. I don't know why everything is messing with me today. Nothing wants to actually work the way that I want it to work, which is pretty typical of my life, actually. So okay, so if we select all that, there we go. We deselect that, we deselect that. You know when you're doing something and you do it perfectly and it works out so great, and then you're like, yeah, I'm going to show this to the next person, and then you show it to the next person and it never works? Or the reverse, like you're doing something and something's not working and then you show it to a person and it works? That's exactly what I'm having right here because this worked earlier. Okay, so another way to see what you've selected within RotoBrush is down here. You can have different view options with RotoBrush. So you can toggle on the alpha boundary. You can have different colors behind, and you can actually set that color or the opacity. So here, for example, the default is red, but if I make it green, I can totally see a little bit better what that RotoBrush is doing. So if I just move it forward, it'll propagate and it will start adjusting the RotoBrush as time goes on. See here in propagation. It might freeze again just because I'm live streaming to 2 sources and my computer can't handle the heat, I'm guessing. We're also a little bit over time today. So if you want the full breakdown, the full lowdown on everything, you can go and check out my manual that I made for this, which is Create Magic in After Effects. And this will actually explain everything and break down everything as far as what buttons to push if you're trying to do RotoBrush, if you're trying to track things, etc., etc., etc. You can also actually see the final piece that I'm making because I do intend to actually finish it, and I'll put on TikToks, Valentina.v on Instagram, Valentina_v on TikTok, and then you'll be able to see what the final product looks like. And it is part of Kevin Parry, who was our guest like 3 videos ago, is part of his challenge, part of his monthly sort of like fun Instagram challenges that he's doing. This month it is jack-o'-lanterns, which is his theme, so that is why I decided to make a video with a jack-o'-lantern. That, and I love anything that's spooky and scary, so I thought it would be perfect. Until next week, where we are going to be talking with our special guest Amber Torrealba, and hopefully the technical things will work themselves out, or I'll figure out a way to make them work. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and have an amazing rest of your day. Bye, everybody.